Welcome to Debt Matters. Today, we're looking at the UK economy, and really, the conversation has to start with jobs. For a long time, the story's been all about a really tight labor market, plenty of jobs, wages going up, but it feels like that chapter is now closing. So what we want to do is connect this shifting employment picture directly to the things that matter for you. We're talking about future household cash flow, the pressure building up in arrears, and how effective debt recovery programs can actually be.
That connection is absolutely crucial right now because
Yeah.
when you see the job market change,
Yeah.
it's really a leading indicator for financial
A
instability,
warning sign.
a huge warning sign. We've moved from what was a seller's market for employees to something, frankly, a lot more fragile. If fewer people have stable income, the strain on credit and collections portfolios, well, it becomes almost inevitable. The very foundation is softening.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's get into the hard numbers that we've been looking at. Where are things moving fastest? Let's start with the big one, unemployment. The rate has climbed to 5.1% for that August to October 2025 period. That's the highest it's been since, early 2021.
It is, and that immediately means you've got a larger pool of customers facing a sudden, complete stop in their income.
And it's not just the headline number, right? There's more going on underneath.
Oh, absolutely. If you look below the surface, the momentum is slowing fast. The official survey data is always a bit backward-looking. What's more telling is the real-time payment
The
data.
PAYE numbers.
Exactly. And there, we saw a provisional fall of 38,000 in payroll employment just in November. It's happening right now, month over month. So employment isn't just flattening out, it's actively shrinking.
And we know it's not just about having a job, it's about what you're paid. We've also seen wage growth starting to cool off. Regular pay, if you strip out the bonuses, that slowed to 4.6%. Total pay, including bonuses, that also eased to 4.7%. So you have fewer people working, and the wage pressure that was helping people keep up is just fading.
And if you're looking for the earliest warnings, you have to look at the official filings. I think we need to focus on the HR1 notifications.
Right. And for anyone listening who doesn't deal with these every day, the HR1 is the paperwork companies have to file when they're planning mass layoffs, right?
That's it. Usually 20 or more employees at one site. So it's not a historical stat. It's a literal notification of future pain.
So what did those filings tell us for November?
They told us the future risk is very real. We saw 29,733 people reported as at risk of redundancy. That's a powerful signal of planned, structured job cuts that haven't even hit the unemployment figures yet.
So that's really the heart of it then. It's this combined effect, higher unemployment on one hand and slowing wage growth on the other. It's a real two-pronged problem for household finances.
It's a perfect storm. The rising unemployment creates these acute income shocks for some people, but for everyone else, the people still in work, that slower wage growth completely starves their ability to recover.
So even if they have some arrears from before.
Right. They might have manageable arrears they picked up during the cost of living peak, but now their ability to earn their way out of that hole is just disappearing. It's a terrible spot to be in.
So if the data is painting that picture, how does it actually translate into more missed payments for, say, the average credit portfolio?
Well, the mechanism is a bit different from what people might assume. Most operations are built around a capacity issue. The customer earns X, their payment is Y, so they just don't have the money long term.
But that's not what's happening now?
It's less about that and far more about instability. The bigger threat to collections right now comes from volatility. Job loss, sure, but also reduced hours or even just gaps between roles.
Short-term shocks.
Exactly. A customer might still have the capacity to earn £40,000 a year, but if they have a 6-week gap between jobs with no income, that temporary instability is what drives the default, not their annual salary. Just that short interruption is enough to trigger a missed payment.
And we know where those shocks show up first in a household budget. It's not usually the mortgage, is it?
No, it hits the high-frequency commitments first, the bills on autopay that are hard to delay. We're talking about utilities, telecoms, subscriptions, buy now, pay later payments, car finance, unsecured credit.
All the things that operate on a really tight schedule.
Precisely. When that monthly income stops, even for a short time, those bills pile up. They become the canary in the coal mine for wider financial strain.
And then you add that second problem we talked about, the slower recovery. Someone has that shock, but their pay rise is only 2%. Instead of the 6% they might have gotten last year. They just can't catch up.
And you see that lack of recovery capacity immediately in collections. We're seeing more requests for payment plans, more requests for short-term help. But there's a huge trap here for lenders.
Setting the plan too aggressively.
Exactly. If you set an arrangement assuming a quick income recovery that just isn't going to happen, that plan is almost guaranteed to fail. Without that disposable income cushion, which is what slowing wages takes away, a reasonable-looking plan becomes completely unsustainable.
So the whole strategy has to shift.
It does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're moving from managing individual capacity to managing this systemic labor market instability across the entire portfolio.
Which brings us to where that instability is focused. It's not spread evenly, is it? Which groups and sectors should collections teams be watching really closely? From what we're seeing, younger workers seem to be getting hit particularly hard by this softening. And sector-wise, the job losses and those HR1 filings, they've been most visible in retail and hospitality.
They have. And that focus is so important for collections because these groups share some key vulnerabilities. Younger workers, especially in those sectors, often have much thinner savings buffers.
They're living closer to the edge.
Much closer. And their job tenure might be shorter, making them more vulnerable to those last-in, first-out redundancy situations.
And for a lender, that creates a measurable operational problem, doesn't it?
It really does. It creates what we call faster arrears roll rates. So when job instability hits these groups, a missed payment doesn't just sit at 1 month in arrears. It escalates very quickly to 2 or 3 months.
So the problem gets deeper, faster.
Much faster than in other sectors, like white-collar jobs or public service. When instability hits retail and hospitality, the spike in arrears inflow is almost immediate.
I do want to touch on interest rates because that's always part of this conversation. A weaker job market, it naturally leads to talk about the Bank of England cutting rates, maybe sometime in 2026.
That speculation is definitely out there, but we have to put it in perspective for anyone in collections. Rate cuts offer, well, marginal help. They might shave a little off a mortgage payment or reduce some interest on a loan.
But it's not a silver bullet.
Not at all. It doesn't solve the main problem we're seeing in the data, which is that sudden, sharp income shock from being laid off or having your hours cut. If you're unemployed or you've gone from 40 hours a week to 15, whether the interest rate is 5% or 4.5%, it just doesn't change your immediate inability to pay that bill.
The focus has to stay on income stability.
Relentlessly. That's the real issue, not just the cost of credit.
So if I'm following this, we're moving away from collections strategies built for managing capacity, and we have to pivot fast to managing instability risk. So what does this all mean? What are the actionable steps for someone listening who is managing these portfolios?
I think there are 4 core operational shifts that need to happen now. 4 ways to connect this rising risk to tactical changes on the ground.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, tighten your early warning triggers. The old way of waiting until a customer is 3 or 4 months behind, that's obsolete now. You have to engage right after that first missed payment or a partial payment or even a broken promise to pay.
So any sign of trouble, you act.
You act. The goal is to engage when it's still a cash flow hiccup, not a full-blown crisis.
And if you do get them to engage, the focus moves to affordability.
Precisely. That's the second point. Affordability needs constant critical review. We'd advise rechecking it much more often. This isn't just about ticking a box. The goal is to build arrangements that are genuinely sustainable, not just something that looks okay on paper based on 6-month-old income data.
Because that data could be totally out of date.
It could be. If their job security has weakened, the payment plan has to reflect that new reality. The arrangement that worked in a booming job market is just a recipe for failure today.
That makes a lot of sense. What's the third tactical change?
Third, you have to treat vulnerability as mainstream. Given all this instability, job changes and income cuts are going to be common, not rare. Your systems, your staff, they have to make it easy for customers to tell you what's happening without feeling penalized.
So if they call, they get help straight away.
Immediately. They should be routed to hardship and support. If your process punishes people for being honest, you just miss that crucial chance to intervene early before the account spirals.
And the final one.
Finally, you need to look beyond the individual account and manage the portfolio itself. Monitor your portfolio's concentration in these exposed sectors, retail, hospitality, any others showing high HR1 numbers.
And what's the concrete action there?
You plan proactively for 2 things. First, a higher inflow of arrears, because we know those roll rates are faster. And second, crucially, you have to plan for longer cure time.
Longer to get back on track.
Much longer. With slowing wage growth, it will take customers longer to find a new job and climb back out of arrears. Your operational models have to be adjusted for that delay.
That's a really clear operational roadmap
Yeah.
drawn directly from those UK labor figures. So just to quickly recap for you listening, the shift from a tight labor market to softer conditions is creating some very targeted financial stress. It's focused on younger workers in sectors like retail and hospitality. The main challenge for collections right now is income instability, job loss, reduced hours. And that's a much more immediate problem than waiting on potential rate cuts.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. If job predictability is gone for a whole generation of younger workers, especially those in sectors like retail and hospitality, how might that permanently change their long-term financial attitudes? If securing a consistent income gets harder, what new strategies might they need to find stability, and how will financial institutions have to adapt their products to match that more volatile income flow?
Something to think about as you look at your own portfolios and plan for the months ahead. Thank you for joining us for this analysis.